Yeah.
It's so traumatizing.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't even know. You have to be practical. And I'm like, my dad took me everywhere. Like, I'm not crying.
Yeah.
And so my mom, my dad, like, she might come over.
What?
I would be
So we open up.
Well, no, that's how it works.
I'd like to call to order the special meeting for October 26, 2023 at 501 Main Street, 5:30 PM. And I would like to still go ahead and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number 2, could I have a roll call?
Crenshaw, Walker,
Here.
Garcia, Woltmans,
Here.
Hellenthal, Andrews,
Here.
Tillman,
Here.
Bryant,
Here.
Greenwald,
Here.
8 present, 1 absent.
Okay, so tonight, guys, we don't have a citizen's request per se, but for the 2 subjects that we're talking about tonight, at that point, when we're talking, whichever one you're here for, you can come up and to the podium, give us your name, your address, and you can talk from there after we get going on whatever part of the agenda we're on. So you still can voice your opinions, okay? All right, we're going to start with item number 3, consider the resolution guaranteeing a line of credit for Keokuk Economic Development Corporation. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
So we'll start discussion. I will read and say on October 16th, 2023, the Personnel Committee, Roger Bryant, Shelley Altmans, Dan Tillman, and Tyler Walker, along with Mayor Kathy Mahoney, met with Mike Norris.
Mayor?
I'm on the wrong one.
Mayor, that's the wrong.
I'm the wrong one. Okay, never mind. I'm doing the SID Center. Okay. In August, the council approved a contract with Horizon Architects for $19,500 to design the build-out on the first floor of the Southeast Iowa Developmental Center. Roquette will be renting this space for 2 years. Roquette is also requesting to rent a space on the second floor through 2024 at the rate of $24,000 per year. The design has been completed for the first floor with a bid of $289,900. KEDC will be financing that project. A line of credit is to be negotiated by KEDC with area banks for up to $350,000. In order to obtain the line of credit, KEDC needs the City of Keokuk to guarantee the line of credit. The term of the line of credit will be either 7 or 10 years based on the finances. KEDC is negotiating a lease with Roquette that will have a lease rate of $18 per square foot or $72,000 per year for 2 years. Roquette is also willing to pay all or a portion of the lease upfront to offset the costs for the build-out. Should Roquette choose to extend their occupancy, the lease will include a renewal clause. Renewal would be automatic with a 5% increase. The term would be month to month, but require a 6-month minimum term. Roquette can stop the auto renewal with a 90-day notice. If the line of credit is not guaranteed, it is possible that the project cannot move forward. Roquette is expected to have 40 to 60 people on site, with most of the positions not being filled by persons at the Keokuk plant. If Roquette does not extend either lease, first or second floor, the space is more marketable with its improvements. I'm going to open it for discussion.
Yes, I would like a minute or two to address the council, if I may.
Yes.
I would like to start by saying thank you to all those who have worked so hard on the SID Center project. The SID Center has been a huge challenge for all those involved, and all the efforts and vision behind this project should be appreciated. As I understand it, for 6 years, this building has been a great expense to the city of Keokuk. The building itself is a hospital wrapped around a church, meaning it is a very costly building to maintain. So far, only one company has prospered at the SID Center, and I worked for that company for approximately 1 year as a food safety manager. During that time, I became very familiar with the building and also the inherent difficulties in maintaining a building of that size and age. As it turns out, most of the building is in terrible shape. Cost is the real problem because, once again, it's a hospital wrapped around a very large church. And in a town with no hospital, it is ironic that we would pay to maintain a hospital and instead call it a development center, when all that is really developed is cost. Now, it would seem that unless the city guarantees a sizable loan, the overwhelming cost of the SID Center will have to be reckoned with, and possibly leading to the building shutting down. And that's not biased opinion, that's just simply what the numbers dictate. Therefore, the project for which this loan exists must be willing to share in the additional burden of guarantee that no more loss will be sustained by the SID Center and thus the city of Keokuk due to this project. Now, before us is a request to guarantee a line of credit up to $350,000. It was $500,000 a week ago. Now it's $350,000. Only with a projected return of $144,000. For me, the key word here is guarantee. The lessor needs guarantee of the loan. The lessee needs guarantee of completion of renovations in a set timeline. The banks will need guarantee of repayment. And as for the city of Keokuk, we need guarantee that this money will be well spent and it won't come back to bite us in a couple years. And I see nothing like that here. I see no guarantee for the city of Keokuk. That is why I voted against this resolution. And I just have a couple questions. Maybe somebody could answer this for me who knows. I was hoping Administrator O'Donnell here would be here to answer these questions. My first question is in reference to an article from June 11, 2019, titled, Keokuk Borrows to Cover SID Center Shortfall. And in this article, Administrator O'Donnell had stated that an additional $428,322 would be borrowed from the city's capital project fund. And to pay that fund back, the city would use rent money generated from the SID Center. And to date, my question is, how much rent money from the SID Center has gone back into the city's capital project fund?
I could answer some aspects of what has changed about the project since its initial inception. So in June 2017, we put together an application for a grant. Well, I wasn't involved in this, but the city administrator at that time had put together an application for a grant to the Federal Economic Development Authority. That was $1 million match. So we got $1 million, and then it would be $1 million match by the community through TIF funds. What happened in the meantime is that when we took ownership of that building, we were in transition with a new, we didn't have a public works director, and we were also in transition with our city administrator aspect. There was a big thunderstorm. We had a catastrophic roof failure because of torrential rain and wind, and the chiller also got struck by lightning.
Sure.
So before to that, when we actually had gotten the building given to us from Roquette, it was second generation office space, which means you put some paint on it and it's ready to go. So there was some unforeseen issues that happened in regards to uncontrollable things that the city had out of their control. There were things that the city did have in their control, which they could have gone in and they could have instantly fixed the issue that happened. However, it was not remediated. There was mold growth in that building, and then we had to go in and we had to pay to tear all that down and remediate that issue. Sure. Because nobody was paying attention, to be honest. And I didn't know either, to be honest. And so that completely changed this project significantly. And that has to be taken into account as to how we have to pivot now in order to adjust personally. And so when that happened, so now when the building was completed, so then in 2018, I think we took ownership in 2017 or 2018, but then that all happened. So now we have a much bigger investment that is required to be put in that building because of the aspect of this situation. And so that was that $480,000, plus there was insurance funds that we got as well, that went to support that project that was not intended due to that storm.
Sure. And I would encourage everybody to revisit this article from 2019. It not only covered that aspect of the repairs to the building, but also that the initial estimate fell $1 million short. And that was shortly after City Hall caught on fire. And Administrator O'Donnell had stated in this article that he didn't catch it. He didn't catch that $1 million discrepancy. So funds had to be gotten in a hurry to cover the cost of repairs to the building because that $1 million hadn't been accounted for. And that is indeed why the $428,000 was taken from the city's capital project fund. I'm just wondering if any money since then has gone back into that fund, to your knowledge, to anybody's
I do
knowledge.
not know. We have not received a significant amount of rental fee off of that space. Our first leasee, also in the certain aspect too, is we've never put anybody in charge of this building. Like nobody, we've never allocated any human resources and very few financial resources to this building. So you have to understand too that we have failed on that as a city as well. Usually you don't have a large 78,000 square foot building and then not have anybody in charge of it or allocate funds to maintain it. That I do not know if there's been funds that have come back into the capital.
Okay. Thank you. I've just another couple questions here, if that's okay. I was wondering what the additional tax will be on 4,000 square feet of leased space over the next 2 years, since we pay taxes on the space in the building that's actually leased. Do we know what the additional tax will be on 4,000 square feet of space?
So the taxes are dependent on the assessed value. So we would get in charge of we would get into contact with the assessor and they would give us assessed value. And currently Keokuk's consolidated tax rate is around between 51 and 52 cents per thousand of assessed value. And then we would collect the city taxes back through TIF to be put back into the TIF fund. So the portion of city taxes would come back to us.
And what fund is that money taken out of, and what fund is that money then put into?
So we have the taxes included in the lease rate at this time.
Okay, so it's taken out of what fund?
And it's taken, so the lease money that comes into the city, I'm assuming that comes in as revenue to the city from the Southeast Iowa Development Center, it's taken out of that.
I see. And just one more question, if I could. Will all of the lease money from this project go straight back towards the principal of the loan?
I do not know. That would be a KEDC question.
And if not, how long will it actually take for part of this total $168,000 to go back towards the principal of the loan?
I don't even know if KDC has loan terms worked out with the banks yet, as far as. So that would be figured out after you get the terms of the loan, I'm assuming. There's representatives from KDC here if you'd like.
I'm sorry?
There's representatives from KDC here.
Okay.
That would,
Okay.
once we start.
And if anybody knows, I mean, feel free. I'm curious. I would like to know that these things
Come on
are.
up. Carrie, please just introduce yourself and give us your address and your representation.
And the question was, will all of the lease money from this project, the $168,000, go straight back towards the principal of the loan?
So what we originally requested was that, first of all, let me apologize for not being here at the last meeting. I was visiting my daughter in Kansas, and as much as I love Keokuk, I love my daughter more and my grandkids. But so to answer your question, when Cole came to me, I said, well, I want the city to receive some money from the rent because I feel the city should have. And my opinion was I wanted to get 75% of the month of the rent for KDC so that we could pay the loan down. Cole came back and said, well, the council kind of thinks 50-50 would be better. That's fine. I don't care. We'll work with whatever the council feels is appropriate. But we want to pay it down as quick as we can. The reason we want to do the line of credit is because then we're only paying interest on what we're using. We're not going to go we don't want a loan for $350,000 because I don't think we're going to need that. So whatever we need, we're going to get a line of credit. That's what we're going to pay interest on. We figured out that at 6-7%, if all we pay is the interest, it's about $1,000 a month. And that was at 500,000. At 350,000, I think it would be reduced significantly, a little bit. I also want to go back, and you said, Shelley is correct. We haven't collected a lot of rent. The reason we haven't collected a lot of rent is because when the city took this building on, it was assumed, and that incorrectly, that we would get renters who would come in, look at a space, they would renovate it, and we would rent it to them at a minimal fee per square foot so that the city is getting the expenses, we're getting the taxes paid, and all their money is going into the updating of that part of the building. We did hire a marketing firm to market the building earlier this year. They don't charge us anything unless they get a renter in, which is great for us because we're not paying them anything unless they produce something. But the first thing the guy, we took him through, and he'd been through the building before, first thing he said was, you guys are not going to rent any space if you bring people in and say, here you go, you fix it up. You need to fix up space so that when they come to look at the building, they're looking at something that's move-in ready. People, and I'm this way, my wife's different, but if you show me the plans of something, I don't see it. My wife can look at the plans of something and it's in 3D to her. So I'm like that renter that comes in and is looking at this blank space with the walls that have been torn out because they've had to get mold out, and ceiling tiles are gone, and the flooring is dirty. And I'm going, yeah, there's no way. So the whole idea of doing this, and KDC's already put money in the second floor offices, the 10 offices that Roquette is going to take if we can do the first floor. And Clark's here, so I can't be too mean, but to be real truthful, I think this is really important for us to finish the space so we can show people, come in and move here. I think if Roquette leaves in 2 years, I don't think we're going to have a hard time getting somebody else in there if it's finished. I believe you took a tour of the building, didn't you, Mr. Walker?
I know the building inside and out.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you looked at that first floor where Roquette's wanting to go into, I mean, it's a mess. And like I say, if you showed me, and I've seen the plans of what the architect came up with, I mean, it's a cool space. And I think when Roquette leaves, and hopefully they're going to be there longer than 2 years, if they're not, it's a marketing point for that building, as is all of the money that KDC put in around 20,000 into just the 10 offices on the second floor. So, if this doesn't go through and Roquette says, well, if the first floor doesn't go, we're not going to do the second floor, I'm really not that concerned because I think we can rent those 10 offices out. They turned out gorgeous, I think. So I don't know if you have it. Does anybody have any other questions for me?
I guess my question is that, so we're receiving 50, say we receive 50% of the lease rate and they provide it to us up front. That I would assume is the KEDC would put that back towards lowering the line of credit. So
Absolutely.
that's the intentions from my understanding.
Absolutely.
Is
Yeah,
that
we
we don't
don't-
want to go put that in our coffers. We have $200,000 of our own money that, so we don't see it as something that benefits us to be paying to keeping it in our books. What we want to do is get that line of credit paid down as soon as possible.
Yeah, it's 100% of what we get is going towards the loan.
100% is going to the principal of the
Correct.
loan.
Yeah, we don't, we're not, there's no reason to keep it. I mean, regardless of.
Well, I guess my question is, if the money from the rent is going back to the principal of the loan, you're not creating any new stream of revenue to work with and, reinvest in the building.
50% of the money is going towards the principal, 50% is coming to the city.
50 from the
But what Carrie's-
KEDC is
what
going to the
Carrie's saying-
principal.
Of the 50% or whatever the city feels that KDC should receive. I'm sorry if you misunderstood. Of the money that KDC receives in rent, 100% of what KDC receives is going to go to paying the loan down.
Unless we have, we have another space that we're looking to build out. And so KEDC has to have a conversation about using their own funds for that.
We have some money that we may use for that ourselves. To be truthful, I don't like, regardless of the car loans I've had and the boat loans and what my wife would tell you, I prefer, for KDC, I don't want a loan. And it will get paid off as soon as it can get paid off.
So if I'm understanding, and you might be able to clarify this, if we would approve this, Roquette's, when they agree to this, they're prepared to pay, am I correct, a year in advance when you agree to rent the space? If the contractor tells us, yes, we can guarantee we do it, we sign on the line, we sign, we're going to guarantee the loan, and Roquette comes on board, as they do that, they're prepared to pay basically what I heard was a year up front, which would immediately then drop our line of credit, basically our available line of credit, to about a third. Is
Well,
that
it'd
correct?
be-
Because the first year is around $90,000, give or take.
So the first year for this space is $72,000.
So right off the bat,
So
if all the ducks line up, everything goes right, then within the first month,
so that takes our $289,000 bid lesser $72,000.
but that takes, within the first month, you would have just under $40,000, $36,000, $37,000. That check would be immediately taken back to the bank and just put this toward our line of credit, which would drop our line of credit. If we're looking at 350, drop that right there if we borrowed all 350.
Well, the line of credit is going to go as the construction goes.
Right. I
So-
understand that. I'm
So
familiar with that.
that money's set aside, and as that line of credit builds, it goes towards that line of credit.
But that's what I mean, though. You would take that initial investment
Yes, sir.
and apply that right to that.
Yes, sir.
And then what are you expecting on terms, like 6-year, 8-year payback?
I haven't talked to the banks yet. I've got them all together and I've said, hey, you guys, are you interested in helping us out? And every one of the banks in town has said, we're in. And it's kind of funny. I said, well, do you want to do it collectively? Where you all take a fourth of it, or do you want to do it just one? And almost everybody said, we want it all. It's like,
Well, that's
okay.
a bank. That's typical.
So, yeah, right.
That's typical.
But there has been projects that have occurred and the banks said, well, we'll just split it. But this is one they said, no, we want all of it. And so, without having an okay, I thought, well, I got them all together. They all said we're on board, but haven't got into the nuts and bolts of it because I thought I'm not going to waste my time and theirs if it's not going to get approved.
Well, my other question, I guess, would be for Mr. McGrew. If we approve this, and I talked with Brian Monday, and if this all goes through, the construction company is prepared to be there the first of next week. Realistically, what are the chances of you deciding? I mean, if the construction company tells you, because if they're going to start it, that means they're guaranteeing they're going to get it done by whatever date we've told them. So if that's a done deal, is there a chance that you would still back out of this? Knowing that the construction company has guaranteed that, what are the realistic chances that even though, because if we approve it tonight, the ball's rolling, but you haven't signed on the line yet, which means you still have the option of backing out. And so I want to know truthfully, what are your real expectations of potentially deciding not to do this?
Sure. So I'm Clark McGrew with Roquette America. So we've done our first legal review of the lease with our legal department. We don't have any major issues. So I feel very confident in moving forward. There's some minor details we need to work out, mainly around that deadline, but it would be something in the terms of contingencies, not in terms of not signing the lease. Okay.
So there's a pretty decent chance then if we would guarantee it tonight by, and I know November 2nd is a week away, so that's going to be kind of hard to do. But by the second meeting in November, which would be the third week, there's a pretty definite, we would have a signed agreement with Roquette, knowing that now we've got you at least guaranteed for 2 years as a leasing of those two places.
Correct.
Okay.
I also wanted to add, so when you look at our revenue streams right now, we have Freeze Dried USA is with a lease agreement of $30,000 annually. With the addition of Roquette, the 2 spaces that they would be leasing out, it would be $72,000 and then $24,000. And then we just got a lease agreement with Dr. Barrett, and that is at $500 a month, or?
It's at $12 a square foot, and I'd have to look and see what
And it's
that.
350 square feet, I
Okay,
think.
so
So I think it's around $400 is what we had talked about.
It said 300 in the information package,
$300
$300
square feet.
total lease amount for Dr. Barrett's space.
Okay.
Okay, well, 300. So then we look at that, and so we're going to have that lease as well. And then I have 2 other organizations, two other small businesses that would be leasing at $600 a piece out of the 3rd floor. So that would be an additional $1,200 per month. But we're looking at approximately, I'm trying to do some quick math here, around $120,000, more than $120,000 of annual revenue that will be coming into that in lease rates next year. With that, half of that will come to the city, so approximately $60,000, which would cover our utilities, pretty much almost our utilities with gas and electric. And then $60,000 would go back to KEDC that they would put towards that line of credit. And then also I wanted to mention that the cost of, in 2017, when the grant was submitted, they had to do a business plan. And that is when they identified the cost per square foot and what their goals were for this building. And the idea is that this building, it's an incubator center / business center, but it's not only intended for new startups. Actually, one of the biggest things in economic development is business retention and expansion. We want to focus 80% of our energy on making sure we keep the businesses that we have and that we help them expand. And so Roquette coming into this building is exactly the intention behind actually holding on to this building. Also in that business plan in 2017, it was an estimated cost of $1.2 million to take the building down. So that's the cost for us to be able to take it down. I'm assuming that demolition cost was probably double now at this time.
Any more discussion? Anybody? Please come forward, Dorothy.
Dorothy Cackley. I don't have an exact date, but I did inquire at a previous city council meeting regarding the income versus outgo for the SID Center. At that time, they were getting $12,000 annually for the freeze-dried food. And the expenses for the building was $90,000 annually. So I don't know if that will help you with a perception. Ironically, that night when I got home, I saw a video on Facebook, and that was freeze-dried food was flooding because of a malfunction in the water lines.
Toilet blew up.
There was a toilet issue.
And so that was kind of
Yep.
another
And
expense.
if
know
I
it
hadn't
could-
been there working late, Dorothy,
Hmm.
I wouldn't even have noticed the water coming up the hallway because I was working in a
You were
different
the
part
one
of the
that
wing.
discovered it?
Yes.
Okay.
And
It was
if I
that
had just,
same
if I
night.
had not looked to the left on my way out of the building, I wouldn't have seen it. And that water would have ran all night long.
Yeah.
It would have been the morning until somebody had discovered it. And by then, the building would have been,
Yes.
I mean,
And-
too far gone. It's already too far gone, if you ask me.
I know it's a kind of a gossip thing, but I have had discussions with a person whose relative worked in the Roquette building when it was Roquette, and they referenced a roof leak at that time that had not been addressed. The person had to work under a tarpaulin to catch the water to keep from getting wet at the workspace. So I'm not so sure that it was in as good a shape it was made out to be when it was taken over by the city. Again, it's gossip, I know, but
So there was some roof issues. There's no question about that, Dorothy, but the money that we received, the majority of that funding went to replace the entire HVAC system for both sides. So there's an HVAC system for the 4-floor side, and then there's 4 HVAC systems on the roof for the 2-story side. So we only, with Roquette being in that 2-story side, they're going to be taking over half of that building. So there's only going to be 2 units running there to keep that space going as well. But those roofs have been repaired with rubber white roofs. One of the conversations that we need to continue to have as a city is what are we going to do about solar energy and how that could be used to be able to support this building. But I think also everyone needs to understand that at this point in time, we are only leasing out a very small portion of the leasable space. When Roquette comes in, we're going to have 50% of the 2-story side done, and we're still only going to have less than, and we're going to have a third of the of the 4-story side. So we have significant space for growth in leases.
Anybody else? Any more discussion? So we have a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed?
No.
And I am abstaining again this evening.
Do you need to do a roll call?
Can I have a roll call?
Crenshaw,
I'm abstaining from voting due to a personal conflict of interest.
Walker,
No.
Oltmans,
Aye.
Hillenthal,
Aye.
Andrews,
Aye.
Tillman,
Aye.
Bryant,
Aye.
Greenwald,
Aye.
6 yes, 1 no, 1 abstaining.
Motion passes. And with that being said, whether you're for the building or not for the building, I think this is a great, great opportunity for the city of Keokuk and Roquette to move forward together. They are our largest employees right now. They have been in our town for quite a while, and it's time that we work together and move forward as employees, employers, and community. And I hope that's what we do, and I'm glad to see that we can do that tonight. Okay, item number 4. I need a motion to consider hiring Henson Consulting LLC for interim city administrator and city administrator for a search proposal.
So moved.
Second?
On October 16, 2023, the Personnel Committee, Roger Bryant, Shelley Altman, Stan Tillman, and Tyler Walker, along with Mayor Kathy Mahoney, met with Mike Norris, Executive Director of SEI RPC, in regards to hiring a consultant to find a group of candidates to hire as the city administrator for the city of Keokuk. Mr. Norris reached out to 2 consulting firms in Iowa, Henson Consulting LLC and Midwest Municipal Consulting LLC. After reaching out to both businesses, Midwest Municipal Consulting LLC informed Mr. Norris that they would not be able to have the time that be available at the time we were requesting. We have received 2 proposals from Henson Consulting LLC and are hoping to get a census on your feelings so that we can move forward in a timely manner. The first proposal is in regards to hiring an interim city administrator to help us through budget season. There's a qualified candidate that can be interviewed during the next city council workshop on November 2nd, 2023. This candidate is only interested in an interim position. This does not mean that other candidates cannot apply for an interim position. The second proposal is to search for a city administrator who is looking to fill the job on a permanent basis as soon as possible. The Personnel Committee is first asking that you as a council move to hire Henson Consulting LLC. If this motion is passed, then we will open both proposals for discussion and consideration. Any more discussion?
I highly recommend that I'm on the chair of the hiring committee, and we've worked with Henson Consulting on when we hired both the city administrators positions, not the first one, but the second. They're highly regarded across the state, and they have, I think, in their over 130 years of experience. The city administration and management world is a small world. There's not a lot of cities that have city managers and administrators. Some people think that it's not that hard to run a city. I think as city council members, we all know that it's not as easy as we wish it was. But I just think that they would be an excellent choice for us to move forward with.
Can I ask about the intern? Is that, I know we need somebody to help us find a new city administrator, but the intern part of it is a 6-month job, and can it be done without that?
Sorry, I apologize. So what I can tell you is that through the conversations with the personnel committee and also with Henson Consulting and with the assistance of Mike Norris from Southeast Iowa Regional Planning Commission, we sort of talked about several different options that we could figure out. Since we're really at a time crunch right now, and that there is a person that could come in starting the first week of December who has 16 years of city administration and financial experience, I think this is a really great opportunity for us to be able to have somebody that can get started day one, especially with the new legislation that's impacting how budgeting is going to take place this year. We need to have somebody who has that experience and knowledge and is up to date on current legislation and how that's impacting budget. And I think we're all actually, to be honest, we don't know how it's going to be impacting the budget. So it's going to be a moving target. And then having somebody like this come in will allow us to do it as well as possible. And this person has 13 years as a city administrator in communities that are 2 to 3 times our size. And they are also have been a finance director.
Yes, but it can't be done with the city, with the people that's here in City Hall.
Sorry?
Not hire the intern, just let the people that's here take care of the budget. And
I wouldn't recommend that.
6-month time period.
Yeah, it's a 6-month contract. So she's her her
But
role would
within
be to
6
help us
months, we
through
should
budget
have this hired.
union negotiations, budget. Also, at the same time, what we've talked to with the consultant about is having her look, having this individual look at the city's fiscal condition for the long term, as well, to sort of see what we look at a 5-10 year out with this new legislation and how that's going to impact us.
I believe before we vote on this, I'd like to have a little conversation with our city employees and see if they can handle it and get us through till we make a decision and go for a permanent one. At $62 an hour plus expenses, that's kind of, we talk about we haven't got any money, but if the city employees don't think they can get us through the budget and the state reporting, then yeah, I would be in favor of something like this. But if they think that they can do it, then let's let them do it.
I agree.
I think the fact that we have somebody who has 15 years of experience could help guide us through. And I don't think you understand that how this legislation is going to impact our budgeting. It's not like budgeting like last year. This legislation is a significant impact to budgeting. And everybody across the state of Iowa knows that and is very nervous right now.
I agree with Roger.
Um,
Ask people here.
Tonight, are you guys just voting on hiring the firm tonight
And an intern.
and I thought
And
you
to
had,
look at the proposal. So we're not looking to hire the interim. What we're doing is we're right now, the motion on the table is for us to hire
the
Hinson Consulting.
the
That's all
staffing
that's all
company.
we're
Sit in
doing.
here intern.
All we're doing right now is deciding whether we want to reach out and hire Hinson
So
Consulting.
before you would hire the person that's listed in this, you'd go
And
through the whole
after-
interview process.
And we have a first and we have a second, and we've got some discussion going, but that's what we're doing. And what we need to do is decide if we want to hire them as our consultant. And then after that, we need to talk about whether we want to do an interim or we want to do,
But that
just-
portion of it's not on
Right.
the agenda to vote on tonight.
no, it's
correct?
not.
Why is it not on the agenda? I thought it was supposed to be on the agenda because otherwise we can't interview this person next week.
Well, we could have put it on the agenda, but we can't, we need to decide right now whether we're going to hire them or
No,
not.
we do not. No. What we're doing is so this is, Hinson gave us a proposal, and this is the contract that they have proposed. And what we need to do is consider if we want to accept this proposal, these proposals. Yeah, these proposals. And these proposals are together. So these proposals is, for instance, the interim position proposal is tied to the second proposal. So if we don't accept the interim position proposal, it would change what they would consider doing for the other proposal.
Well, point of order here. Number 4, motion to consider hiring Henson Consulting LLC for interim city administrator and the city administrator search proposal. It doesn't say anything about we got to approve an interim. We don't have to
No,
agree to an interview. All this is we're voting whether we want to hire Henson Consulting. From that point, then we decide, do we want to go for an interim? Do we want to go for a full-time? So right now, the only thing we're voting on, the only thing we should be discussing.
That's what this proposal says.
No, but you got to look at the agenda. It's not on the, that's their proposal. They're showing,
Interim city administrator.
we're hiring them for interim city administrator and city administrator search proposal. We're hiring them to do the search. That's all that we're doing. That's all we agreed upon and talked about in our personnel committee. We didn't say nothing about talking about an interim yet. We're just wanting to talk, we're wanting to agree to hire them so then they can do a search. If we decide to accept Henson, all we're doing is we're accepting that they're going to be the one doing the searching. From that point, once we accept them, if we vote it in, then we decide, do we want that search to be for an interim? Do we want that search to be for a full-time? That's all that's on the agenda. That is all we are actually voting for. This has nothing to do with, I know you want to have an interview next Monday or next week, but that is not what's on the agenda, so we cannot vote on that.
So actually, it states on the agenda, interim city administrator and city administrator search proposal. So these are together. Yes, they're written in two separate things,
Hiring Henson Consulting for search proposals.
but you can't, okay, this is what he's getting hired for, though. This is the problem, is that he needs to have so like, for instance, when you go to a contractor and you want to hire them, and so they're going to do the build out for Roquette, that's based off of what proposal they gave you, yes? You can't just hire them and not have a proposal. That's this proposal. I have talked to Brent about this several times. This is the proposal that they are being hired for.
I
This is
understand
the-
that, but that's not what we're voting on.
So if we go and we tell them that we aren't hiring them with this contract in place, they will not work for us because they need to have a contract that they say this
This is
is.
the contract.
So there's two,
This is a proposal. They're two
They
completely
both-
different papers.
so this says
Two completely
proposal
different
and this
papers.
says proposal.
Okay, guys, okay.
This is a work proposal.
Guys, the Personnel Committee met, and when we left, the goal was to hire someone and present it to the council to hire somebody to do the search. Mike Norris spoke to Henson for us, and they came back with these two proposals. But when we left the search committee, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, Roger and Dan and Tyler, when we left the search committee, the only goal we had was to hire someone for the search. Now,
That's correct, because we didn't even know that this qualified person even existed
So
at the time.
this memo is the memo that we talked about in the last meeting. Okay, do you want me to read it? Please accept the following as a good faith effort to support the city in a transition time with critical timelines ahead with annual reports in the city budget cycle. City of Keokuk professional leadership will be in transition period as of December 9 to 2023. A city administrator is a unique position, like any organizational leader, to see and affect virtually all issues facing the city. A vacant city administration position will leave any city, including Keokuk, vulnerable to a host of issues from the most basic governance to the more complex city finance and budgeting. As the council knows, the city budgeting process should begin late in the calendar year 2023. After required reports are sent to the state of Iowa, the annual budgeting process requires effective communication, planning, explanation, and specific knowledge of the process. In order to manage city finances, governance, and overall business in the most orderly and effective way possible, I present the following thoughts for your consideration. 1, engage a professional municipal manager search and placement firm to manage a process to locate an interim city administrator to serve a minimum of 6 months with a contract convertible to a full-time situation. I believe that at least two viable and experienced candidates would be available for this role after visiting with the leading Iowa professional manager search and placement firm. Second, after 90 days or so of the interim administration's term, engage a consultant on a state of the city report to inform the council and potential future administrators of the city's standing in the following areas: general operations, financial capacity, organizational structure. The state of the city report should give councilors and future city administrators information to either confirm what they know or reveal that they don't know. Either way, confidence is generated in the baseline data for future planning and execution. In the meantime, when he engaged the professional municipal manager on our behalf, they said that they have a possible person who would be an interim that would not be interested in the full-time position. And that's the reason they provided the first proposal of the interim city administrator process proposal. And this is an individual that they've identified that has 15 years of experience in finance and city administration. And with the timeline being very quick, what they recommended is that we consider this, we interview that person. It doesn't make it so we have to do anything. It's only, and we can decide then next Thursday whether we want to move forward with a employment agreement with this person.
I think that would be a good idea going forward. At least interview this person because we're on such a tight deadline. And as I understand it, we hired this company to help in the search. They did a little searching since the last meeting. They found this candidate. It would be nice to kill two birds with one stone tonight so we could agree that yes, we were going to hire this firm and pursue this potential candidate. Because once again, it's crunch time for this whole deal. If we are going to pursue an interim, We need to do it quick.
And then at the same time, then the second proposal is about hiring for the permanent position. And this would be the one that's open for everybody. And in that being said, that's your typical process that they go through. Very rarely do communities have the opportunity to hire an interim that has this much experience and is willing is interested in just coming in the short term to help the city through this process.
Did you get an answer, Roger, on what you just asked? That you asked if
Yeah.
the people in the city had the.
So then I guess we have the clerk here. Does the clerk feel confident in going through a budgeting session with new code, state code in place?
I mean, I think there's going to be a learning curve with all the legislation and changes. And obviously having someone who has that much experience would be beneficial. But to say that I couldn't do it, no. I mean, I would.
Would you rather that you had somebody that had that much
Well, it's
experience to
always
help
nice
you?
to have someone, you know, who's got more experience to.
And then Public Works and our other two major departments?
Well, my question would be if we're gonna hire somebody at a prorated $140,000 salary for a 5-month period, really, essentially what you're talking about is hiring this person to assist with the budget. Because what else are they going to do in that short period of a time? They're not gonna come in and make a bunch of changes, I wouldn't think, or have an opportunity to even learn our city.
I think, though, that you have to understand that person, though, they will have to be managing the day-to-days of the city still.
Well, sure, I understand that they're gonna have some
That's why they have a
tasks
mirror.
and can kind of oversee the departments. However, I question somebody coming in and being able to be 100% within, I mean, how long does it take to learn the ins and outs of our individual unique city and the way we run? So to me, essentially what you're doing is you're trying to hire the experience for the budgeting season, which I understand that. Personally, I don't think that should come at $140K in 3 days a week.
They're working 5 days a week. They're working 2 days remotely.
Plus travel pay, plus insurance.
So what does the other department heads think?
I do believe it was something that we could do as a city without a city administrator. We've done it for years. I also know there's resources available to Celeste. If you're having troubles, you can reach out and people can explain to you what needs to be filed, how it needs to be filed, when it needs to be filed. But as far as the budgeting thing, I mean, if it's something that bothers you, you can tell everybody to freeze it for the year until we do get a new city administrator. But you're having to pay a severance package for 9 months, and then you're gonna stop and pay another person another 6 months on top of that. It just seems like we could spend our money in a better way. It's my opinion.
I'm comfortable with doing my own department's budgets. And then that would be given to Celeste to take care of the rest of that, but I kind of have mixed feelings about both. I mean, I've only been with the city since January, so, you know, and I've talked with Gabe and Zeth about this privately, and I think as a city, we could survive without somebody in the interim. Not that, like Celeste said, not that it wouldn't be beneficial to have somebody if you needed to lean on that experience. So I guess I'm kind of on the fence about it, but I think we could survive if we had to.
What's the going rate for a tax consultant?
So this is what we're hiring as a consultant, as an interim as a consultant.
For $70,000.
It's not only the budget. You have to talk about the day-to-day management of the city. There's a lot more to operate a city than just, Dorothy, if you want to, you can speak at the microphone, please.
I think you're selling your employees short when you say that you have to have somebody else.
I'm
over
not
your
saying
depart-
that. I said
Over
that.
your department heads. These people know their jobs, they know their equipment, they know their people that are working under them. I'm going to start with where I was in my notes at the beginning. Some of it's been covered, but some of it is still kind of muddy for me. This is reading from the papers that you folks received. It says, we have developed a comprehensive process to recruit, screen, and evaluate candidates, providing the best chance possible of finding the perfect fit. The next paragraph includes this statement. Our team also assisted with the Keokuk last city administrator search. So does that tell me that Henson Consulting was responsible for recommending Cole O'Donnell as the city administrator?
They presented, I believe, 5 candidates to us, and then from that point forward, it was the city council that conducted interviews and made that decision.
Okay. Are they also involved in negotiating the terms of a contract?
I'm sorry, I have the consultant on the phone, so I wanted them to explain.
I believe they
The
are,
Hinson
Dorothy.
consultant.
So if we thought that the salary was too high, I think that would still be up for negotiation at this point.
Okay. What I'm
I'll
worried
text it to
about
her,
is
okay?
all the severance that's been paid out,
Yes.
and there should not be an allowance for that long of a period of time. You have to negotiate with some degree of discretion for the citizenry.
I agree.
Number 3 has been covered. I guess it was your personnel, or was it the guy that came and talked to you, to your personnel committee, that contacted Henson?
Mike
Norris.
Norris was invited to come and help us, and he was the one that contacted
And
them.
he's with,
Southeast Iowa Planning, Regional Planning.
okay.
And he was
Um,
invited to the meeting because he's very good at that type of stuff that he does.
And this idea of coming up with a candidate before the consulting firm is hired is really spooky to me. Number one, if where we got, and I'll come put us in this position in the first place, I'll catch that in a minute. The 6 months term has been covered. The 40 hours a week, only 3 days, leaving one to assume the other 2 days are spent doing Keokuk business on a computer, but how are we going to verify that? Will the interim candidate is living several hours away? What do you consider several hours? If I'm bored, an hour's a long ways away. What is several hours away? It's mileage. No one's willing to say. Is the travel time going to be taken out of the 3 days they're supposed to be here? Are they driving here on Wednesday and leaving on Friday? And if they're several hours away, are they going to be made to be here from 8 to 5 or 8 to 4, whatever the office is open? Things to consider. In your process framework, I do not see on the list that you will be interviewing citizens from previous cities of employment to get a flavor for the citizens' evaluation of the success of the individual that you're thinking about hiring. Does anybody think that's important?
Yes, of course.
We all know candidates put references on their applications. Who are the references they're most likely to write down? Somebody that's going to give them a glowing recommendation, right? On the other hand of that, you have to consider if somebody has an employee that they're really wanting to get rid of, how is it going to work? But they will write them a glowing recommendation just to get them out of the system. So please, please, please cover all of these things carefully. And I still go back to talking to people in the towns where these people come from to see the flavor about this person, if they have done a good job for the citizenry, not for select projects, not for select groups of people, but for the whole citizenry of the towns. Let's see. I would encourage another perspective in the search, and that would be talking to the people. And I caution the mayor and council on moving too quickly. There is an old adage that haste makes waste. Okay.
Mayor,
if I may.
there's another local resource that you might be overlooking. Gene Ludwig might be somebody we can reach out to as far as helping Celeste with the deadlines and where to file and things like that.
Yeah. Dorothy, if I may,
I
I
have-
don't want to
I have Hinson
prolong
Consulting on the
this
phone if we want to
meeting or
hear.
that, but I was one of them that this city administrator came out of the 3rd Ward. Ron Payne was having ward meetings, and he was having one, and a lady in the crowd said, "How's come we don't have a professional running our city?" We took that back to the council, talked about it, and said, well, if the citizens want a city administrator or a city manager, and we real quickly put that city manager down. City administrator, we thought would go if it was really, and so it went. We didn't have this consulting firm or consulting firm on the first one. It was a local citizen that had relations in HR and brought that one. Our second one, and now the third one, and I had sticker shock on all 3 of them when I found out what you had to pay them. But that's what the citizens are going to have to decide, and what we're going to have to decide. What? This is way out of the box, but maybe we need to go back to the mayor, city council.
I have a question. Can we have Hinson Consulting explain the proposals to the council so they know what their process was and how they, why they're making the recommendations that they are, so we better understand what their intentions are, so that we know what we're hiring or not hiring?
Please. Yeah.
So Mark, Dorothy, if you have something to say, please, can you wait until it's your turn? Thank you. So Mark, I'm going to give you some moment. We just want some clarification on the process that you went and why you proposed, and from our conversations and with Mike Norris, as well as with a little bit through the personnel committees, why you proposed put forth the 2 proposals. The first, to be able to hire an interim that you've identified as a possible candidate, and then second, the full process.
Oh, I think if understanding from Brent, and I'm Mark Jackson, by the way, I assist Brent on a number of these searches, that we were reached out to with regards to the hiring of an interim city administrator during this time that you search. And I think one of the reasons is primarily you have a number of things going on within the community as well, but probably more importantly, we've all pretty much have started the budget process. And I know I started my community in September, and I know a lot of other communities have started their budgetary process as well. And I think this year it's going to be even more difficult for cities because of the new House File 718 that took place, which has changed some things dramatically within terms of the budgetary process and revenues we're able to generate, et cetera. So I think we're kind of going in with, you need somebody with some real experience, probably working with some of that budgetary process as well, and to keep things going. So I think that was, the first thing is there's somebody out there that could serve in some capacity on an interim basis. And we often get asked, can you find us an interim city administrator? Or sometimes even in smaller communities that don't have that, is there an interim city clerk that you can find? Just because things get missed and gaps going on as well. So I think that was probably the interim suggestion. Somebody reached out. Is there somebody out there? We reached out to several, and there is a very good individual to serve in an interim capacity. So that buys you some time. The other thing that it is that in terms of the process itself, it's awful. And I know Brent put forth a timeline in there, and we've talked about that. And it's awful. It's sometimes difficult to get candidates to start looking at things during the holiday season. And we even really talked about in terms of candidates as well, in terms of this year's budgetary process, the types of candidates, how focused are they going to be, because they're going to be so focused on this new change in the law that it is. And so we felt it best to kind of help early on during this time to get somebody in there on an interim basis, particularly one with a financial background, and I'm known for one thing. If you ask me a question, I'm going to give you the answer. And I think given the difficult financial situation in Keokuk, just straight up, I think you're going to need somebody in an interim basis with that kind of strong financial background. There's some cities that may be able to get away with it. I think Keokuk, just because of the financial situation you have down there and have had for some time, and with this new state law, you're probably going to need somebody on an interim basis. But that's a decision you need to make. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Mark, about the interim conversation. Can you also explain then how that is connected to the process for the full search proposal?
So, I've read it. We've done a number of these, and basically what we do with the process is that, we come down, we talk with individuals, with mayor, city council members, department heads, talking with them one-on-one, asking a number of questions. But, what it gets down to is, what are some of the things that you're really looking for in your next city administrator? What are those things? And then from that, Brent develops, he's the one that does that. He develops a position profile. It's used to describe what the community is, what it's like, what its upcoming challenges are, what does it have on its plate in terms of goals and objectives, that sort of thing. And then finally, what are the things that they're looking for in their next city administrator? So we take that and then we use that as a lack better word, promotional material to reach out to candidates as well. But also during that time and after we meet with mayor, city council, and department heads, Brent and myself and the other ones we use, consultants, we may talk with Pat a little bit. Marquita sometimes helps us out. We'll sit down and we'll go, okay, who are those 3, 5, 6 individuals that we should be reaching out to that fit with what they're looking for? And then at that point, it's a phone call. It's no different. I'll use a sporting metaphor. I hate to do that. You're similar to a football, basketball coach, whatever, college athletic. You're actually recruiting candidates. You do that by phone. And you'd be amazed at the number of candidates that, first of all, didn't know that the position was even open. Secondly, some of them hadn't given it a thought. And they, frankly, in this day and age, people like to be asked. They like to be invited. They like to be recruited. And I think that's a real key. And I think that's just a critical component of that. And some of them may say, I never gave it much thought, but they do. And then they dive more into it. Then once that's, then of course people apply for the position. We narrow it down to, we try to get it between 6 and 8 semifinalists. Then we do Zoom interviews for about 30 minutes with those 6 and 8. And then we encourage the city council from them to narrow it down to about 3-4 candidates and then bring them in for 2-day interviews.
Thank you very much, Mark. Are there any questions from the council people? Okay.
Could you ask him that if we choose not to go with the interim, will that affect the proposal timeline for the full-time person, or how will that change anything?
Okay, Shelley, you're going to have to repeat that because
So,
I
yep.
could just hear
No
somebody
problem.
talking.
It's okay. So what her question was, is that if we don't go forward with an interim, would that impact the proposal timeline for hiring a full-time position?
Probably not. Like I said, the difficulty, I mean, we could probably you can get started, but here's they don't, once you get, and the problem is we're heading into these November months. I mean, we could, but right off the bat right now is when we run into these holiday seasons, kind of right before Thanksgiving, and it goes all the way through the first of the year, nobody's thinking of looking elsewhere. It's kind of the nature of the beast. I mean, could, start some things earlier, but I'd have to get with Brent. I don't know if you get anybody in sooner. The other thing that you may run into as well is that, when they're coming from somewhere else, there's a deep sense of loyalty to them. And you've got two things going for it is if it's a normal budget year, it's not an issue. But this is the first year with this new law, it's going to be tough with somebody saying, I'm not going to be able to really start until maybe after the budget process. Or at least until they get into those public hearings, which are into April. The other part of it is some may move a little earlier, but if they got families that, getting closer to the end of the school year works a lot better. So yeah, I can visit with Brent. We could move it up somewhat. I don't know if it really helps you or not at this point. It's this whole, you're in the holiday season.
Okay. Thank you, Mark. Any other questions from the council people?
Basically, I just wanted to make sure that they're still comfortable with that if we don't pass hiring somebody temporarily, that they're still going to help us with the full-time person. And it sounds like they are willing to do that. So that sounds good.
Would you be I guess this is my question is that there's two proposals here. Even if we do not move forward with you for hiring the interim, would you be interested in still helping us with the process to hire a full-time person?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Oh,
Yes.
sure.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, of course we would. That's one of the things. We're city, we're community minded first. We're certainly willing to help you. And if we can, I can visit, Brent and I can visit. And if we think we can move that timetable up, yeah, we'll do that. Definitely, because it'll help you out. I'm just kind of wanting to forewarn you about running into this holiday season and how people are.
Okay. Are there any other questions?
No, I think that's good. Thank you for calling him.
Okay.
I think we're ready to go forward.
Anyone else? Okay then. Thank you, Mark. We really appreciate your time today.
Okay, so I want to clarify a couple things here on the memo that's from the mayor to the council. On the first paragraph, hiring a consultant to find a group of candidates to hire as a city administrator for the city of Keokuk. The last paragraph, the personnel committee is first asking that you, the council, move to hire Henson Consulting LLC. If this motion is passed, and that's the one we're supposed to be discussing right now, is strictly hiring them. If we vote to hire them, then we can move forward on these other two proposals. So right now, the motion on the floor, as I understand it, is we're asking if we want to hire them. Has nothing to do with an interview next week, has nothing to do with anything interim. We're just asking if we're going to hire Henson. If we hire him, then we can look at the two proposals and see if we want to move forward with that.
Okay,
Is there any more discussion then?
okay, guys,
I would like an opportunity to speak here. Just to clarify, the motion as has been brought to the floor is to hire Henson Consulting to conduct 2 different searches for the city. So I would like to make a motion to amend the current motion to split these into 2 different two different action items on the agenda. So that item 4 would be a motion to consider hiring Hinson Consulting LLC for city administrator search process. And then action item 5 would then be motion to consider hiring Hinson Consulting LLC for interim city administrator search process.
I'll second, yeah.
So the first motion is to just look at the interim position?
The first is to look at the long-term position.
Okay,
First is to look at the long-term. Okay.
permanent.
So item number 4, he's making a motion to hire Hinson Consulting to look for a city administrator.
So
We
moved.
have a first and second. Any more discussion? I hope not. Because we've discussed this long enough. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Then item number 5 becomes a motion to consider
Madam Mayor,
hiring.
point of order, that was just to accept the amendment. So now we would need to do the vote of as amended.
Okay. We actually we're open to the First Amendment, so we have to table that, right?
No, we amended it. We changed
You
it.
amended it, okay.
And that's what we just
Now,
agreed to, was the amendment. So
Now we
now,
have to vote on it.
now we
Yes.
would be
Now we-
asking for a vote to as amended.
Yes. Okay. So do I have a first and second on that?
So moved.
second.
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? Item number 5 now becomes motion to consider hiring Hinson Consulting LLC for an interim city administrator.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
I'm just going to reiterate that I don't think anybody that understands how this House file and this change in the Iowa code is going to throw our worlds upside down when it comes down to budgeting. And that that's across the state of Iowa, everyone's very nervous. And then in the fact that Keokuk has the situation that we have, I really think that we should consider hiring somebody, and it's a professional that has done this process in the past and also is quickly able to then adjust for these new law. And I think we're going to find ourselves in a horrible budget situation if we have the opportunity to hire somebody with gold standard, and we deserve that personally in the city of Keokuk. We deserve people that are excellent, high caliber candidates for the top 5 cities in the state of Iowa that are willing to come here to Keokuk and help us and help guide us through this.
Okay. Any more discussion?
I'm going to make a response to that. So instead of doing an interim administrator, why aren't we looking at an interim finance manager? You keep bringing up the budget. Your whole concern is the budget. Why are we looking at administrator when we ought to be looking at a finance manager? If we're going to hire somebody for a part-time, let's do it 5-month, 6-month basis to get through the budget, which is what I keep hearing.
So
Is we're concerned about the
Okay,
budget.
guys,
Then let's look at a finance manager.
go ahead.
we don't have a financial director position. So this
Okay.
person, the city administrator, serves as the financial director, yes?
Okay, so we have a motion. We have a first and a second on the floor. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Can I have a roll call?
Walker. Holtmans.
Aye.
Hellenthal.
You're not here anymore.
Andrews. Aye. Hillman.
No.
Bryant.
Aye.
Greenwald.
No.
Crenshaw.
No.
3-4.
So it was 3 ayes and 4 noes. Motion fails. With that being said, it is time to adjourn the meeting. Let's all go home.
We're not going to search for one. We won't use the
Are you-
consultant for search for.
Why?
For more fun. for more fun.
That's what I want. I'm more, you know, the thing is, the cost of having somebody screw this will be much more expensive than the cost of having it. I know what I did. When I come, but then I have faith in anybody who takes on the challenge head on. We're not. Yeah. That ain't the way it is.
And I just want to tell you, like, I think it's absolutely. Be friends. Together.
Most definitely.